Hello everyone, welcome back to the first episode on Learn C course on YouTube, titled History. So in this episode I'm going to be talking about history of the programming languages and history of C. It's not going to be too long, I still encourage you to stick around, but if you're not interested you can skip to the next episode. History time. So the first machine, obviously as many of you know, was actually created and designed by Alan Turing, nicknamed the Bomba, with its sole purpose to decrypt German messages during World War II. Although not computed by modern standards, this machine was a turning point for humanity because, well, it was the first automated machine to take input and deliver output. The first microchip. The first microchip was actually developed 30 years after this by Intel. It was a 4-bit CPU. It's useless by today's standards, but back then, like the text says, it was a feat of its own, never thought to be possible before. Who made the C language? So I'm actually not sure if any of you have heard, but C has a successor called C++. It's supposed to be a subset of C, meaning whatever C can do, C++ is supposed to do better, I guess. But I would disagree. I think both languages are useful in their own right and can be used with specific tools for specific purposes. C was actually developed by Danish Ritchie in 1970, and it was supposed to be a successor to the B language, with its purpose being general purpose programming, etc. I'm not going to keep you bored here with the history lessons. Again, this is a short history lesson, but I did want to mention it before I actually get into the real coding. So one more question. Why do we use high-level programming languages such as C, Python, Java, etc.? Well, I don't think it needs explaining. I think the next slide can explain you. Nobody really wants to write zeros and ones on a punch card anymore. It's much easier to write English letters like this on the right than on the left. What is a compiler? Actually, a compiler is really useful, and I will talk about it more in the future episodes, but again, I'm just skimming through this. A compiler is, simply put, just a tool that other programmers have made for you to use to create code. If that sounds confusing, well, at first it is, because the entire point of programming is that you take high-level code, like English words, and convert it into zeros and ones, because a computer cannot read zeros and English words. It can only read zeros and ones, so we have to turn our language into the computer's language, and that's the compiler's job. Many people have written many compilers over the years. The one we're using is called GCC, and I will talk about it in the future. Actual coding. So with that out of the way, let's get into some actual coding and writing hello world with our first C program. So you can simply put C compiler online in your search bar, and you should get a couple online compilers. I'm going to be using Programmies Z. First link. So when you click on the link, your page should look something like this, with some C code on the left and output on the right. I will talk about this in the future, but for now, whatever you want to print, you can put inside this printf parentheses. So if I want to say hello world, I can simply put this. Now, I will talk about functions and parameters and variables again in the future, but for now, all you need to know, whatever you put inside this printf function in quotation marks will be printed out as a sentence, if that makes sense. So if we click run right now, it will print hello world. Great. So we have our first program executed on an online C compiler.